Based on a pattern, in this video we want to learn how to cut a clear shape out of this pattern and how to scale it properly. Before we can cut a clear shape out of this pattern, I have to attach these elements, because we can just see if I press my H key that I have single objects, and these are all my objects which define my pattern. And so far these objects are all instances or references. So the first thing I have to do when I really want to attach this, I have to make minimum one of these objects as a copy, and it's definitely also a good idea if you have copied everything besides, so you don't lose the information of the single of your single pattern. Okay, let's choose one of these objects, and two things you have to be aware of. First, it should not be something in animate mode, and secondly, it has to be an instance. So the first thing I do, I just add one edit poly modifier on top, and as mode model, because that's the only option where you have this attach. And secondly, I have to make it unique. This means it's not an instance anymore. You just see that this typeface is bold, and if I go into make unique, it is not bold anymore. And now I can go into attach, and of course I can attach every single element, which is a lot of work, but you can also just say attach list. And as long as it's like this, that you isolated everything which has to be a part of your pattern, that's really, really important. You can just go inside, choose one and say string A. I just said string A, and you just go into attach. And here we go, we attached all my single objects of the pattern to one big object, and I just deactivate attach and just rename this, probably just say this is now my pattern 3D. I want to cut a square surface out of my pattern. The first thing, I just change to my wireframe mode. I switch off my grid because I don't need this. I just extend my top view, and I have to choose my snap toggle. You can switch it on with S on and off, and right mouse click, I choose only vertex, nothing else, because I want to select my my area. And I choose actually a shape rectangle, because with a rectangle you can choose the creation method. You can say edge or center. I just choose edge, and if you hold your string key and then start drawing, you can see that it's always a square, and this is actually what we want to do. And you can just now choose the part. I just delete this again, probably just start here. You can just choose the part you actually want to have as your basic pattern. It can be a really small area, it can be a bigger area, and we just leave it like this. Okay, we look at this in perspective, and what's important like this, we can do our cutting with Boolean. So the first thing, out of this shape, it has to become a 3D object. So I just choose this line, and I attach my extrude modifier on top, and I extrude it to an amount which is big enough that it intersects my pattern. We can already see one thing: my pattern just by mistake was not on Z0, so it's a little bit high in my coordination system. So I just move this down, I deselect my my snap function, and so I can just move my pattern that there is an intersection with my rectangle shape. Okay, let's look at this in perspective. Here we go, there is an intersection. Okay, and when you have done this, you can just go into compound objects, create geometry, And then the pull down menu under standard compound objects, and in this times I use Boolean, because with the Boolean operation it's a really good method to subtract or intersect one object from each other, and in these terms we don't want to subtract it, we just want to have an intersection. So I just choose my basic pattern, or probably my box. I go into pick operands, and here we go. It already worked really well. I just have the intersection of my basic pattern with my rectangular shape. Okay, very important, I just deselect my boolean with right mouse click somewhere to get out of this. That's really important, otherwise you just continuously start subtracting or intersect things. And at the end, this object should have the dimension 30 by 30 centimeters, or it could be also 3 by 3 meters, doesn't matter, just goes is about the principle. And the first thing, obviously, I have to measure the size, because I just cut a pattern. I just go into my helpers and I use my tape, and here again I have to switch on my snap function. I press my shortcut S, and I measure the length of my square surface, and the length of my square surface is 53.228 centimeters. Okay, I want to scale this one to the dimension 30 by 30 centimeters, so I just have to recalculate the amount I want to I need, and I just calculate 30 centimeters divided by 53.228, and this I multiply by 100%, and here we go, it's 56%, 3.6. Okay, and now there's a big issue about scaling things in 3D Studio Max. If I use my scale function and I just select my object and I just say right mouse click and I enter my number 56.361. Okay, then I have it already smaller, and I just go into my tape and I can measure it again. And I just see that it's now 30 centimeters. This already worked perfectly. But there's one thing important to understand. This scale is not really integrated in my modifier list. If I choose this again, I just go into select and uniform, you can always see that when I switch to absolute mode, that this scale is still part of this. So it's really important that this information goes into my my modifier list, and it's really important that here at the end of the day is 100% again, so we can work with this object properly. And the best thing of scaling is, and I just undo my my operation. I can also do it like this, choose my object and just say 100% again. Here we go. The best thing would be I just add an edit poly on top, and I just select my elements, all my elements, and I just scale on my element level. But here you can see what's happening, because every element scales with the center of itself. So this is definitely not what we want to do. Okay, and there are two good options you can go for. The first option is I just delete my edit poly again. The first option is you scale again your object, and you just say I want to have it 56.361 like this, and then there is something like a reset Xform. You just have this object and you just go into utilities, and whatever kind of objects you have scaled, and I just choose scale again, so you see this value. Just look at this value here. You just go into reset Xform and just say reset selected. And if you do this, you can just see that it changed to 100% again. So this is now the 100%, and you can just see that on top of my object there is a modifier. So whenever you scale things not in edit poly on element level, you should add this Xform, and if you add this Xform via system utilities, then it automatically makes a 100% out of this, and you have this Xform modifier on top. Okay, alternatively, you can do the following. I just choose my object. I go into scale again, and it's still at 100%. If I measure it, we can just see that my object is again 53 centimeters. I just delete my measuring tool because I don't need it anymore. I can also just add a modifier. I can add the modifier Xform, which I did right now. And if you just go into this gizmo, then you can just extrude these gizmo. If I just go into a gizmo and I just go into select and move again, and I enter the value 56.361 like this, then I more or less get to the same result. I can just go into Xform again. I can choose my object, and we can see there's a 100% again, so that's more or less the same. So I add a gizmo and just scale it in this Xform gizmo, this object, and this is the same result like before. And if I measure this, then you see that this is again 30 centimeters. So this is more or less the same result, just scaling was already in my Xform. And it's probably difficult to understand, but for all next steps like adding materials, adding other modifier and things like this, it's really important that everything you do in terms of scaling ends up with a 100% in your modifier list. Otherwise your whole thing will be muddled up and you're completely confused because the results are different than you actually expect. I end up with a small example to make this pretty clear again. I just go into standard. I just draw a box. This is my my box, and I just give it a length of 30 by 30 by 30 centimeters. 30 centimeters. I go into isolate selection again, just my my little box, and if I just scale this, I just go into scale, and I scale it pretty small, like on 16%. And if I just now add a modifier on top, for example like the shell function, I just do it right now. I just add the shell function and I give it a dimension of 5 centimeters outer amount. I just scale into my object, and important, I have to use straighten corners, otherwise it doesn't work. And if I measure this right now, I go into my measuring tools and I just measure my my length, and you can see this is definitely not 5 centimeters, is 0.85 centimeters, and this is not really what I expected, because in my shell modifier I entered the value of 5 centimeters. Completely confusing. So, but you can also see if I go into select and uniform, then you can see that this thing is not 100%, it's 16%. So what I do, I just have this object, I go into my utilities, I go again into reset Xform, here we go, and if I go back into my modify panel, then you can just see that the Xform is on top of the shell modifier. If I just move it down underneath my my form, then we can see that now it worked properly. If I measure this one again, just roughly, otherwise snap function is not really done for the edge. You can see that now this is 5 centimeters, and this is actually what we expected, because there's an Xform modifier which is just after my scaling, which I did with my transform tools right now here. Thanks for watching.